Hi, folks. Here we go again. The fourth time coming up. And I was just getting down to brass tacks about the 800 generals and what that means. And I really wanted to talk to you all about it tonight. So I hope you find your way back. And I have one of my favorite memes up. I do have to change the date on that. But it's all, I love it when what? A plan comes together. And it's all coming together just as I have foreseen. But anyway, I am waiting for people to come in and, yes, I'm back. Andrew Rubbertoe. All right. Yes. What? The last thing I would goes blank. Goes blank. We're over the target. I don't look through blades of grass, laying with my chin on the ground, peeking through blades of grass, trying to figure out what's going on. I'm at 40,000 feet looking down. And I hope my voice is coming through for everyone. And I will get to the point. I wanted to wait for the studio to get filled up with people so I could discuss what was coming. What is coming? Well, we know a storm's coming, right? Greg, how you doing, Todd? Rain. So, they love messing up your train of thought, but hey, I'm like Trump. I got it in my head. I know what's going on. You can't mess up my train of thought because I know what's going on. I know I'm down. I'm down with what's going on. And how many generals are 100% on board with Donald Trump? All of them? Do you think there might be a few problems? A few problems that need to be addressed? Randy. Gary made it back. Ha ha. Greg's here. Made it back too. My point was a Marine base in Virginia. Joy, nice to see you. A Marine base in Virginia means Quantico. Didn't I say that was the head of military intelligence is Quantico Marine Base? That is the main base of the president's own, the Marines. Out of 825, 30 generals, remember my 1% rule? I said, in any population, you're going to have at least 1% that have some manner of severe problem. So out of 8, if you have 1%, that's a problem. You've got a significant number of top people in the military that got to go. They're not up to snuff. But do you think that in the years that Barack Hussein Obama was in office, Joe, the autopen Biden was in office, do you think that all the problem generals that were put in or promoted Or do you think they're still embedded? Right, folks? They're still embedded. So a 1% rule is a natural occurrence of misfits, miscreants, malcontents. At least 1% naturally occurs in any population. At least. But this isn't a natural development. This is where they sought out people who are on board with a new world order, on board with communist ideology, on board with transgenderism and counterculture beliefs contrary to the Constitution. I saw 20%. I think that's a good guess. Gary made that guess. And it could be more. Could be a quarter. I remember after the election in 2020 that we had a significant number of flag officers who were against the military stepping in, exposing the fraud and corruption, and preventing the takeover of the presidency by foreign influenced groups. We may have been a hair's breadth away at the time from something like that happening. But what did I say was the main consideration if you want to follow the laws of war? Least human suffering, the least human suffering, and military necessity. Could we defeat this insurgency using non-kinetic counter psyops? And that's what we've been doing. Red pilling people. And the decision was made not to cause tumult and cause an irreparable split in this country that could never be healed. And that we were going to have to go on the long march. Now, I could be wrong about these generals, but it wouldn't surprise me that if a significant number of them were going to leave the meeting with little bits of thread and string hanging off their shoulders where there used to be bars and stripes. Get what I'm saying? And it may very well be, it wouldn't surprise me if some of them end up staying at that facility or a similar facility on a long-term basis. If you catch my drift. Do you all catch my drift what I'm saying? Because there's so many different things that could have been a problem. Who was leaking information about the strike on Iran that was counter to the administration's position? Who was leaking a lot of things about negotiations? Going back as far and even farther than when Trump was going to meet the Taliban at Camp David. How about who was involved when Trump gave the order prior to his end of his first term to get all troops out of Syria. And it was never done. People are responsible for that. And ain't no statute of limitations. So how many? I would posit to you that it would be classified, a good bit of it. How many generals do you think might be putting in for retirement right now as we speak? Do you think there's any of them doing that? Somebody filing for retirement? It won't get approved. They still got, I can tell you what, I think anybody who got that directive to be there at Quantico will have to be there. Ain't no getting out of it. Once they go on the run, they ain't going to outrun the U.S. military, I can tell you that. Can you imagine the level of fear? Because what is the shadow group of the military? The C.I.A. They're quasi-civilian, quasi-military. What if you're somebody that they think is going to sing? Oh, there's going to be a lot of people not sleeping very good tonight. That's the point. One of the points I was trying to get at as I got knocked down 3 separate times tonight. I saw this on T-Sply, talking about domestic now. Tracking agents. Kash Patel put out a bunch of stuff about this child of the Hussein era, right? A graduate from the Barack Hussein Obama Institute for Anti-Americanism. He was tracking agents using an app. Anybody with a brain on their head would know. Putting up an app that allows a user to essentially go after law enforcement or organize disruptions to law enforcement activity. They should know. If they don't know, they should know that it's criminal behavior. Whoever started that app, running that app, owns that app, I believe is going to be looking at getting picked up. Deep and wide. The swamp is deep and wide. They're on the fringes, though. Comey's in the deep section. These generals are in the deep section. I'll never forget the story. When Jackie Onassis was crying on Air Force One, Lyndon Johnson had taken the oath of office. The Dallas coroner wanted to keep JFK's body. The Secret Service took JFK's body away. Texas Rangers got involved. A general came up and had a big fat cigar and blew the smoke in a doctor's face and said, mind your own business, essentially. We're doing what we're going to do. Generals like that how many of them sitting in their roosts overseas, insulated, or so they think, working counterproductive to Donald Trump. We're running the gamut of people who have, with a wink and a nod, put forth every effort to frustrate this administration and his prior administration, Ronald Reagan's administration, JFK's administration, presidents they've intimidated, presidents they've framed, like Richard Milhouse Nixon. They actually shot Reagan. And George Bush was the son of George H.W. Bush, former director of the CIA. He didn't have much problem, did he? So anyway, in order today, a number of things. One of them, and it's important to note, he's going to start dismantling Antifa, and he said in the plural, other domestic terror organizations, with a plural on the end of it. So, everybody's got to do their part in the deep state. Everybody's assigned a role. The Democrats in Congress are assigned right now to frustrate Trump's agenda at every turn, and if not, to shut the government down. And the media's job is to blame Trump for everything, and to make it seem like a government shutdown is going to be the end of the world. Trump and his political jujitsu will use the government shutdown to starve out these special interests. I mentioned that the other night. But also to fire a lot of people. Your position is no longer needed, because during the shutdown, we didn't miss you. When the government was open, we couldn't identify any benefit you provided. You're nothing but a paid agitator, or just a lump on a log. Either one, we don't need. Trump White House prepares for mass layoffs in looming government shutdown. Unprecedented ability that a president has now. Democrats fighting him every step of the way when he tried to do layoffs, when he tried to fire people who were actively resisting his policies as officers of the Trump administration, actively and admittedly resisting his policies when they're supposed to be serving the administration that oversees that office. Well, they lost every single time. Allows subordinate officers to exercise power in his name. That goes without saying that these people have to do the president's will. No, these entrenched bureaucrats are thinking that they're there to perform the will. Maybe that entity will be identified. So they fought tooth and nail. The latest one was the Federal Reserve Board member. And either the appellate courts, not just the Supreme Court, so the lefties' next argument will be, the Supreme Court is corrupted. No, it's been appellate courts also that have upheld that the president can choose who he delegates his power to someone who is against his agenda, and thereby against the agenda that the American people voted for. So the precedent's been set that these high positions, the president is allowed to dismiss. So what do you think about these flunkies? They got to go if the president. So shut down the government, Chuck Schumer, and you're going to lose a lot of flunkies. So is Nancy Pelosi. All the usual suspects are going to lose the power of the bureaucracy. But they're still entrenched there. Bambi, how you doing? Roland, nice to see you. Ha ha. Roland's got 2 extra rooms. Any cat ladies are interested? Oh, yeah. So, when's the date of that general meeting? When are the generals going to get together? Anybody know the date? That's right, Gary. School board, state reps, chamber of commerce. People are vain. They're vain. And they'll get on board if they think they can make more money, they can exercise power. Their noses go way up in the air, and they go from public servant to public official in the snap of a finger. Let me see if I can find that article. Well, here's something the Babylon Bee put up. Again, hard to make light of what's going on, but they do their best. Ammo company unveils new giant shell casing with more room for left-wing terrorists to write out their motives in detail. I'm not going to read all that, but you can see there. Mock them whenever possible. I would love to be a fly on the wall when those generals show up. I'm trying to find an article that talked about the generals. Let me see. Here it is. Here's one of them. I think I got multiple ones. Washington Post, which we know we can't trust. Hegseth orders rare, urgent meeting of hundreds of generals, admirals. The Pentagon has summoned military officials from around the world for a gathering in Virginia. Ha ha ha. Virginia. Even top officials and their staffs don't know the reason for the meeting. Well, after Comey got arrested, maybe you got a good idea. Because remember, that's the military justice system. I saw somebody mention Vindman in the His day's coming. His day's coming, but he's not active. This is the kind of crap you see in the Midas trash bale community. This was today. Terry Moore. Is he dead yet? This is the kind of degenerates we're dealing with. Keep your children away from these people. Okay? If you're working with people like this, tell your boss you're uncomfortable. They make you uncomfortable. There's something wrong with their brains. 489 thumbs ups in 2 hours. And just a sample of the comments, of the 44 comments after 2 hours. The kind of people that follow this crap. Was just saying to my coworkers, I hate the thought of celebrating someone's demise, but when it happens, I will walk into the office that day. And it went on to say, and I'm a 54-year-old white woman. Wonder where she works at. But she would celebrate the president's death. One day closer. Got to stay alive to see it. Motivation to stay alive just to see that day. Aren't you nice? Which one of them? You need another Taylor Robinson. At least he could shoot. Do you see you, Tizzle, taking that comment down? A bit more every day. Won't be long now. Degenerates among us. Here's some more degenerate posts from Now This Impact. Just the democratic system at work. Release the files. Oh, we're going to start arresting people for treason, for election, and they're after the files. The Democrats' victory might release the Epstein files. Somebody won a House race. A Deltia Jalva. I have no idea where that was. But they're thrilled that somebody somewhere won a race as Democrat. So that it is neck and neck in New Jersey. Kind of a surprise poll. I'm trying to see if I can find that in here. Let's see. Oh, here's Comey's indictment. Here we go. Hot off the presses. Let's see. What's circled here? He, James Comey Jr., had authorized someone else at the FBI to be an anonymous source in news reports regarding FBI investigations concerning person one. It was a 2-page indictment. Trump's indictments were novels full of political BS. These are just very plump and plain. James B. Comey Jr. did corruptly endeavor to influence, obstruct, and impede the due and proper exercise of the power of inquiry under which an investigation was being held before the Senate Judiciary Committee by making false and misleading statements before that committee. There was one count that they declined to indict him on. Do you all know what count that was? Not speculation. Do you remember if it was mentioned what a third count was that they declined? I can't remember. I'm wondering if the chat remembers. Oh, my studio didn't want to behave. Why is that? Here's that poll that Trump was talking about. They call him Jersey Jack. That can be pretty catchy. Wow, I just that poll had Morelli. At least it's a good Italian name. Essentially beating close to incompetent Mike Sherrill in the race for governor of New Jersey. Jack is tough on crime and cutting taxes. Two things that governor. And Sherrill wants open borders again, men playing in women's sports, transgender for everyone, and all the things that almost destroyed America. She is a big supporter of the perhaps future President DJT. There's the poll. He called her Mike. Mickey Sherrill. 43% Jack. Jersey Jack at 43. The key is to not sure. How the hell could you not be sure? But keep in mind, New Jersey is highly corrupt. But wouldn't it be something if there were a lot of big arrests in Jersey? Got the cheese in the trap. Let's see how many rats show up and get snapped. Same thing with Virginia. Trump has not mentioned a word that I'm aware of Winston Sears. They have a big surge in Republican early voting, but I don't think she's going to do well. She turned on Trump in 2022, said something very derogatory about him. I can't remember the details. Trump pretty much told her she needed to watch her mouth and she ought to be thankful he's the one who got her in office. And since then, I don't think Trump's given her a second look. Even though she's singing the conservative song and she's better than that mess the Democrats get when people betray. When they betray, what was the reason for her doing that? Well, I'm wondering about, speaking of hold on to your hat, they get all these generals, and how are they going to keep it quiet? If they say it's 10%, how many would that be? 80 or close to 90 generals? I think it's more than that. I think it's double that. I think it's probably going to be a couple hundred of them. How are they going to keep that quiet? I hope they don't. Here's J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance posted this picture. What's her name? Joy Reid. There, you see her down in the bottom there, her eyeball speaking through. There's J.D. Vance. Christina Guaya put this. Joy Reid says VP J.D. Vance got into Yale because they were tired of just letting in white men from New York from all these elite schools. J.D. Vance responds with this picture. Joy Reid. They wanted an Appalachian white. That's how that man got into Yale. I promise you. That's also affirmative action and DEI. So JD put this up and said, well, golly, Y'all want me in Yale? Is that what y'all want me in Yale? So, oh, brother. What's this one? Midas Trash Pail. Midas Trash Pail. He's like a plague that spreads a deadly infection across the world, and there's no vaccine. This is what these people come up with. Here's another one. Epstein cover-up. Tom Homan cover-up. Charlie Kirk shooting cover-up. Shooting in Dallas yesterday. Cover-up already unfolding. This is just in the last 2 weeks. Am I missing any? Yeah, how about Obama's chef? How about what happened to Joan Rivers after she outed Big Mike? You want to go down the list of Hillary's people? But, there's something to be said for having a good memory about some of this stuff. Remember Gaddafi? Remember Ambassador Stevens, folks? Get a load of this. Former French President Sarkozy was found guilty of receiving money from Muammar Gaddafi in his 2007 election campaign. In this case, Sarkozy could face an additional 7 years in prison. It has been well known since 2011 that Sarkozy received money from Gaddafi when, after the start of the U.S. NATO aggression against Libya, which Sarkozy also lobbied for, the Libyans openly stated, "How could it be? We gave him money for the elections, and he..." Let me put this in context. Hillary Clinton stamped her foot with a big smile on her face and said, "We came, we saw, he died," and laughed after Gaddafi was overthrown and was killed. Gaddafi was in a Mercedes Jeep that was gifted to him by the French government with high-level communication systems, and his convoy was taken out by a French jet. What happened to Ambassador Stevens and the 4 soldiers that tried to help him and lost their lives was retaliation for what happened to Gaddafi. Keep all that in mind. In fact, Sarkozy was destroying his creditor who had sponsored him. In other words, Gaddafi helped the French president get in. Clinton was in bed with the French government for arms sales and who knows what else. They wanted to get rid of Gaddafi because they owed him. France not only participated in the bombings of Libya, but also actively operated on the ground. French special forces took part in the Mermaid Dawn operation, the storming of Tripoli, and later directly participated in the killings of Muammar Gaddafi himself. One more thing to remember about France. Remember when Hillary lost the election? She went over to France and she had no idea what was happening, but she was trying to play along with a little photo op where they had a replica of the Oval Office desk for her to sit behind. And she said, "Oh yeah, this is cool." And there were big stacks of paper on the Oval Office replica desk. And when she sat behind the desk with a big smile on her face, the French officials told her, "Those are all your emails." And her face collapsed. Do you all remember that, folks? She looked stunned. So anyway, just something to keep an eye on. What's this guy doing? Trump's going to let them go after each other. Trump is putting the whole mess in Europe's lap. "I am ready to lead the approach to the president," Zelensky says. But there's a nuance. He is ready to do this only after the end of the military conflict. He also added that elections could be held during a ceasefire. Zelya, that's what they call it, like a nickname for him, also stated that Russian officials must end the war or find bomb shelters, threatening Russian officials. Medvedev, who just met with Marco Rubio yesterday, responded and said, "Russia may use such weapons that even a bomb shelter won't help against." And Americans should remember this. Americans, we know we're talking about Oreshnik. Remember I put the videos up of the Oreshnik, kind of like rods of God, hypersonic coming straight down. No warning. Wait a minute, is this a precipice? What's going on? North Korea. The DPRK is in the final stage of developing an intercontinental ballistic missile capable of striking the United States. This was stated by South Korean President Lee Jae-myung, according to Yonhap. North Korea appears to have enough nuclear weapons necessary to maintain its regime, and Pyongyang only needs to complete the development of re-entry technology and the creation of intercontinental ballistic missiles with nuclear warheads capable of reaching the continental United States, Lee said at the Korean Investors Summit. Little Rocket Man, why is he acting up? A lot of different moving parts. Greta von Thunberg. I heard that Greta they did an operation where they played ABBA full blast. I guess from drones. And they couldn't get any sleep. If you change your mind, I'm the first in line. For hours. But that's only the beginning of the problems. Woke on woke fury brings chaos to Greta von Thunberg's Gaza flotilla. Pro-Palestine activists quit the convoy after learning LGBTQ campaigners are on board. And Swedish eco protesters, a protester, also leaves her role. They don't want to go into a place like Palestine with people that are, you know what'll happen to them? They're out of their minds. That's obvious. What's this one? Oh, remember that representative that broke into her stepmother's home and got caught burglarizing her stepmother's home? Well, there she is. a state senator. I'm sorry, I thought it was representative. Former Senator Nicole Mitchell, sentenced to 6 months in jail for first-degree burglary, has now been seen on work. Well, you know what? I give credit where it's due. She's swallowing her pride and going out and getting to work. I guess be sitting in a jail cell. But a lot of people wouldn't do that. They would hide in a jail cell till their 6 months was off. Not to say, but a lot of them are going to have to put the fries in a bag or get up and make the donuts. She's not the only one. Tim Allen. Oh my gosh. I didn't know this about Tim Allen. I want to ask the chat, did you all know this about Tim Allen? When Erica Kirk spoke the words on the man who killed her husband, that man, that young man, I forgive him. That moment deeply affected me. I have struggled for over 60 years to forgive the man who killed my dad. I will say those words now as I type. I forgive the man who killed my father. Peace be with you all. I didn't know that about Tim Allen. Did you? Did he ever tell that story to anybody? Of course, anybody that's a conservative entertainer, the media will only talk about stuff. They don't want to humanize conservatives. So if he did tell the story, it didn't get very far. But you see how Charlie Kirk, his story, his being, changes people. That's one of thousands of stories, Tim Allen's story. One of thousands of stories. Here we got Jack Posobiec. What do you got to say, Jack? Massive. ABC News to air documentary about Pennsylvania woman Ellen Greenberg stabbed 20 times but ruled a you-know-what aside under then AG Josh Shapiro. I could only get a screenshot. It is a Hulu movie, a documentary they're going to put out, and they use all the words in print on the screen that I can't say, and they're showing them bagging the evidence. How can you have that happen to you 20 times and them say you did it to yourself? And Josh Shapiro was the Attorney General. What's that all about? Pope John Paul called it the culture of death. Turn away from the culture of death. Attorney General Pam Bondi put this out. Well, hadn't she got a reprieve from people that have been critical of her? She said no one is above the law. Today's indictment reflects the Department of Justice's commitment to holding those who abuse positions of power accountable for misleading the American people. We will follow the facts in this case. Well, I had in my studio last night, I didn't get to play. The media surmising, MSNBC, wondering if Comey would be indicted, you'll hear them say Trump, in effect, they're saying Trump is going after political enemies, not criminals, not people who lied to Congress and the American people, but Trump's political enemies. Political, not criminal. He's going after criminals, not politicians.
James Comey is expected to be indicted in the coming days. The full extent of the charges being prepared against Comey is unclear. Joining us now, MSNBC Justice and Intelligence correspondent Ken Dilanian and MSNBC Senior Investigative Correspondent Carol Lenig. Chris O'Leary, Ashley Parker still with us. Carol, help us understand the reporting.
So, Katie, we have some sources who say that for several weeks now, the U.S. Attorney's Office in the Eastern District of Virginia, and actually in offices that are potentially much further south than Alexandria, have been eyeing ways to indict Comey, and they are getting very much closer. The statute of limits, rephrase, they are arguing that Comey, there is evidence to suggest Comey lied to Congress in his testimony on the Hill in September of 2020. And for viewers out in the audience who may not be legally as nerdy as me and Ken, I'll just say that there's a statute of limitations to charge people with the crime of lying to Congress or perjury, and that's 5 years. The 5-year statute runs this month.
So what exactly is he?
Name it. That's what he's accused of lying about. Name it. Here is, after these, that's the other thing I was going to bring up. Awful strange how Trump had the silent drill with the Marines. Last night, I played that video last night during my choppy stream. He also invited them into the Oval Office. Here they are. And then, immediately after we find out about these 800 generals and admirals being called to Quantico Marine Base. Man, that's a passel. That's a passel of Marines there, isn't it? So, you know, if they were real news, they would be pointing out the silent drill. They'd be pointing out him inviting the Marines in the office. They'd be pointing out the videos that Trump put up last night, especially the one calling Barack Hussein Obama a traitor. Pointing out that, not calling him a traitor, pointing out that he's a traitor. It's kind of hard to hear him, but I believe this is a clip where he talks about he met with the president of Somalia and talked to him about Ilhan Omar, and that the president of Somalia does not want her back.
You know, I met the head of Somalia. Did you know that? And I suggested that maybe he'd like to take her back. He said, I don't want her. Okay. What else?
So everybody got a laugh out of that. She'll have to go, I guess, to Uganda or somewhere. Wherever the nearest country, when you leave for asylum, wherever you would qualify to go, nearest country, but not all the way around the world, much less end up in Congress. She's going to go. That's what a lot of us have predicted. Kamala Harris claims to have a mole at Fox News. Kamala Harris, in one of her revealing interviews since her failed 2024 presidential run, makes a stunning claim. She said she had a friend inside the Fox News war room feeding her campaign team information. Who do you think it is, folks? Who do you think the mole is? I'd say Harold Ford. But maybe that's too obvious. I don't know. I put Donald Trump's name above this. I could have got just the tweet he retweeted, but I didn't want to get in trouble. But if I show that Donald Trump is the one putting out this information, it makes them harder to take me down. Seahorse said Jack obliterated her Sunday night in their debate. That is Jersey Jack. I was astounded at how ill-prepared she was. She refused to answer almost every question given to her and talked in circles. Reminds me of Kamala Harris. If he loses to her, it will be because of cheating. Things I wasn't able to say. And for all I know, they might have a reaction. I don't know. Maria Bartiromo. Democrats are willing to shut down the government because they are losing so bad. Well, White House National Economic Council Director Kevin Hassett discusses the chances of a government shutdown. This was just before people in the White House said, hey, that'd be a good time to fire the dead weight now that the Supreme Court has given the green light. So we'll see. They don't have a way to win. They're backed in. They're like rats backed up into a corner. Let's see what this is. Breaking Dallas ICE shooter. Search ballistics and Charlie Kirk video. Planned to give ICE agents real terror. Patel said the subject had searched Charlie Kirk video and ballistics information. He wasn't very well trained, but anybody can be dangerous with a gun like that. And this doesn't mention about him using those apps. I want to see whoever created those apps, maintain those apps, get arrested. They contributed to the loss of life. Trump said we'll be imposing a 50% tariff on all kitchen cabinets, bathroom vanities, and associated products starting October 1st, 2025. Additionally, we will be charging a 30% tariff on upholstered furniture. The reason for this is the large-scale flooding of these products into the United States by other outside countries. It is a very unfair practice, but we must protect, for national security and other reasons, our manufacturing process. Thank you for your attention to this matter. 50% tariff. They got a lot of crap coming in from overseas. 100% tariff on any branded or patented pharmaceutical product unless the company is building their pharmaceutical manufacturing plant in America. Is building will be defined as breaking ground and or under construction. So you better get to work. There will, therefore, be no tariff on these pharmaceutical products if construction has started. Thank you for your attention to this matter. What's he going to do with all that tariff money? I think we're going to be seeing some of it. Here we go. Justice in America. One of the worst human beings in this country has ever been exposed to is James Comey, the former corrupt head of the FBI. Today, he was indicted by a grand jury on 2 felony counts for various illegal and unlawful acts. He has been so bad for our country for so long, and is now the beginning of being held responsible for his crimes against our nation. make America great again. How many years do you think he's facing? How long do you think it'd be before he starts talking, let's make a deal? Great numbers came out today on the economy. 3.8% and success we're having, but interest rates are too high. If it weren't for Jerome Too Late Powell, it'd be 2% right now, and in the process of balancing our budget. The good news is that we're powering through his incompetence, and we'll soon be doing, as a country, better than we ever have before. So, yeah, Too Late Powell's costing us a lot of cash. I'm just looking at the chat. You know, I'm thinking about that. I see most of you didn't hear about that, about Tim Allen, about his father. You know, I heard a lot of people say that when they saw Charlie get shot, it really had a personal connection with them, even though they never watched him before. Because he was an average person. An average person. They felt like it could have been them. Even though they don't really have a position on things like that. So I got this video of a young man that I wanted to play the other night. But as you know, I've been getting taken down. My broadcasts have been being scrambled up. I have pictures and videos of when Charlie got shot. Some